Hey everybody, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. I will give some time for everybody to get into the stream, but I hope that everybody is doing well. I know it is pretty weird for me to be streaming on a Saturday night. Typically, I like to do these on Fridays at the same time that I post videos, but it has been quite the crazy weekend, and we will talk about that in just a couple of minutes. But I'm going to wait for some people to get in. I started to see that they are starting to come in. So thank you so much for joining me on a Saturday night. I don't know why you have nothing better to do, but I appreciate you joining in. So before we get started, I just want to say this is going to be like our regular streams that we do here on the channel. If you want to ask a question, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can leave it either in the live chat, which is on the side of the screen right here. If I see it, I will try my best to answer it. Channel members will always get their questions answered, and you can also submit them on either our Instagram or Facebook in the stories. I have one of their little question things where you can go ahead and answer it. And I'm glad to see that people are hopping in. I hope you're all doing great. So I have a little bit of a story to tell everybody while we are waiting for people to pop in today. So originally this was planned to be at 11 o'clock on Friday, like my videos are, and like I always try to make my streams be. So what happened was this Friday I got asked by my college that I graduated from last year. Hey, can you talk to some of the kids? What should they expect as they're graduating and possibly going on to university? And I'm like, all right, like I'll come in. I had the worst toothache, and I talked to those kids, and I came home, and yesterday was miserable because I was thinking, oh, if I can't do it in the morning, I'll do it on Friday night. It'll be fine. Um, I Friday night is miserable. This morning, oh, I'll do it this morning. Still miserable. I woke up at 9 in the morning or so. I had breakfast, and then I woke up at 5 p.m. after going back to bed. So that's why it took so long to get today's live stream going. But we are going to start asking or answering some airsoft questions real quick. Like I said, leave them in the chat, leave them on Instagram. I'm just looking to see if we have anything and just taking a look at what we have right now in the live chat. I just want to say that if you cannot become a member, that's totally understandable. I just appreciate that you enjoy my content. So I actually did get a question on Instagram, which is asking, what are some of the future projects that we're going to see here on the channel? And I think that's definitely a great question and one that I will try to answer to the best of my ability. So a lot of what I'm trying to focus on this summer, now that restrictions are getting lifted and we can actually go out and play airsoft, is that I want to do more stuff with airsoft guns, do more shooting, be able to go outside. And the first video that I've really been able to do that with in years, admittedly, is the GHK AK video that was posted last week. I was able to go out with some of my friends from Gun Gamers, excuse me, and Task Force Keg. We went out and actually got to shoot the rifle. We had a real fun day. Definitely a lot of drinking if you're familiar with Gun Gamers, but it was just a great time, and that's what I want more of my content to look like in the future. Now, there are some things in the GHK video that I ended up not being happy with, but it was my first time doing it, so I understand why those things happen. But there are some guns that are going to be coming up on the chopping block, especially the ones that you've only seen like once or twice. Like if I did like an initial overview of the gun, but never a full review, those are definitely coming. And I'm actually going to cut off right there, admittedly, because there's some stuff that I kind of want to keep a secret. I have this big collection that I'm going to go film next week that I'm really excited about. But I do see a question from Scott, which is, why don't we have airsoft events with camping in the field and higher levels of immersion, but with more personal freedom and focus on shooting battles, rather than actual realism. So I think what you're getting at, or at least the way that I see it, is why don't I have something immersive like a Milsim West, but with the choice in what I want to do, like a more casual game. And I think that you can either have one or the other, in all honesty, because on one end you have to have some sort of control as the staff. You have to make sure that you know where people are, what they're doing, but at the same time, I feel like by having that structure, by focusing on more of the platoon-sized engagements rather than like the squad versus squad, like kicking indoors, kind of the stuff you see at more casual games, like an American Milsim, a Third Coast, even Desert Fox events, because they're owned by the same people that run Milsim West. I feel like you can't have both reliably, just because you have to have such concentration of power and controlling how people are for things like the camping and the immersion. I feel like it's just really hard on the other end to kind of have that super freedom of choice. You're going to need to have that structure of chain of command. So I feel like it's hard. Is it impossible? Probably not. I feel like if anybody could do it, it could be the crew from Milsom West, because they throw fantastic events and they know how to do all of this. Um, But I think it's just a really hard thing to pull off, and it also depends on the quality of the players. Because if you have a bunch of people who've been playing Airsoft for, like, a decade, if you, have been in the military, let's say, you're gonna be much better off being left to your own devices than some guy who discovered Airsoft because they play Battlefield or Call of Duty. And that's not to discount those players, but when there's a huge skill gap like that, you kinda need more structure. So I think that's why Milsim West kinda does that, not only for realism, but to kinda make sure that everybody like, nobody gets left behind, for lack of a better word. So let's just go back through some more of them and, NM, I love seeing your dynamic with gun gamers. It makes you feel more relaxed and easy. That's because 'cause we're drinking. I don't do that when I have my regular videos, but I think something that you don't see, and I've never really known how to put it in a video or thought that it deserved a video, is that making content by yourself is a lot bigger of a challenge technically than doing it with other people. And I would also say, besides just the technical aspect of it, it's also creatively as well. Because when Eric and I work together, we have a lot of things that we agree on in Airsoft, but there are things that we disagree about. And I feel like from those agreements and those disagreements and kind of having this mutual vision we're able to create better content that way. And something that I noticed that a lot of people don't know about is that Eric and I are actually really good friends, especially outside of Airsoft. Like when I'm done with the live stream tonight, him and I are playing Halo. I know that Scott from US Airsoft is streaming Halo right now as well, but no, I feel like the reason why it comes off as much more relaxed is then it's nice to be able like we're gonna use one extreme here, live streams. I'm gonna be talking for the next hour by myself, relying on the questions that you guys ask. But when I'm doing, a typical video with Eric is 25 minutes condensed down to about 15 or 20. I feel like because we have each other and we can kind of work off each other, the synergy between the two of us makes for a better video, in my opinion. Now, like I think I mentioned earlier, we've been trying to do a lot of more collaborative stuff over the last couple of years, and the reason why some of that really hasn't come to fruition is totally my fault. I feel like I have a more I'm going to use the word demanding, but I don't think it's the right word. Just I have more restrictions on my time because Eric doesn't work on Saturdays, but I do. Eric just we live different lives because we're at different points in our lives because Eric's 6 or 7 years older than me. So really, a lot of these kind of drawbacks have been because of myself, I would say. But I love making videos with him. Just taking a look real quick at some of the other questions. Yes, the peer pressure with Eric is real. I never drank before I met him. Um, do you know if there's any fix for the flimsy ambi selector on the VFC 416? As a lefty, you get really scared. That's understandable. I don't know. The ambi selectors are weird because it's kind of like working or not bolt carriers, the bolt release. Every company makes them a little bit differently, even though they all do the same thing. So I don't know if there's like an upgrade part for it per se, just because everybody's mechanism might be a little bit different. On the topic of Milsim, have I ever experienced a CQB Milsim? I've heard a bunch of those events going on around in my area. So I feel like the issue is that Milsim's kind of a buzzword and it doesn't have a defined meaning because to some people, Milsim is that event like Milsim West. You are going out in the woods, you are can't camping isn't the right word, but you are setting up your own shelter, you're fighting for 40 hours, and then on the more casual end, it's just a big open play basically. So I've been to scenario games at CQB fields. I guess that is kind of what you're asking about. And I think they can be interesting, but I think that by having a smaller field, you're just running into the issue of you're not going to have as much variety. You're not going to have as many players. Sure, they can be fun. I like scenarios where it's like you versus a dedicated op four. I feel like those aren't done very often, but staffing can be pretty difficult for that. So yeah, I like doing that sort of stuff in CQB fields. Just admittedly, in my area, the closest CQB field for me is about an hour and a half in any direction, and I don't like any of them. It's not anything against the fields per se, I just don't really like the way that they design their fields. Also, big hello to everybody that's popped in during the last couple of questions. I appreciate you coming in to a very weirdly timed live stream. And I do see a comment here from somebody that I actually enjoy watching, was this Cast Lab Airsoft, saying that they enjoy making videos when other people around them, and absolutely, because like going back to what I said earlier, I like having somebody there to kind of vibe with, and they're gonna have ideas that I didn't have, or I'm gonna have the opportunity to shoot Eric in my video, like I did for the GHK video. That was a lot of fun. Taking a look, we have a question from Alex. What is my favorite airsoft gun? Right now, we're going to limit this to what is the favorite gun that I own. And I honestly have to say, it's my VFC Salmon M4. This was a video, this was in the my new favorite airsoft gun video, and it still stands the test of time. I would say that VFC Salmon M4 is the snappiest airsoft gun I've ever gotten out of the box, so I'm in love with it so far. It just sucks because I've gotten other new guns that I've wanted to test since then, like the GHK AK, which while I'm really happy with it, it's a gas blowback, and I know they kind of suck. I just think that they're cool. And then my Wolverine Airsoft MTW, I've been tinkering around with that to get that more reliable. But that VFC M4, let me put it in perspective. I've had so many issues with my MTW since I bought it back in 2018, so almost 3 years now. I always have issues with it, and then I finally get it to run good enough to bring it to a game and have a phenomenal time. I went to go play my first game of airsoft really since COVID, and I brought my MTW and that VFC M4. I use that VFC M4 for 75% of the day. And again, that is just a stock Avalon, but I think that it's just a really, really good gun. And obviously, you can upgrade it, and I would highly recommend it. Like I have my upgraded VFC, and it is a little bit more snappier because it has the gate tighten versus the standard MOSFET that VFC puts in their airsoft guns. But I just love that airsoft gun. It's also for a really cool kit, which is 10th Mountain Division from 2012 to 2014. If you want to learn more about that, go to the Gun Gamers channel. I helped them film a video on that recently. But yeah, my favorite gun right now is that VFC Solid Mod M4. And I think the other thing that I like about it is that it's not key mod, it's not M-Lock, it's just your old school quad rail. I absolutely love that. And I apologize. If you came into the stream a little bit late, I've had a horrible toothache for the last 2 days or so, which is why I kept postponing this live stream. So I'm not sure how long today's video is going to be, but I definitely feel a little weird, to be completely honest with you guys. But I'm just taking a quick look over on our Instagram. Again, if you want to submit a question, there's a couple ways you can do it. Either putting it right on the live stream chat, you can also submit it to our Instagram or Facebook questions, or if you are a YouTube channel member, your question is guaranteed to get answered. So just taking a look through here real quick, seeing if there's any other good questions. And I do see another one from Scott that is here in the live chat. Why can't we have huge airsoft events with thousands of players in the USA like they have in Europe? Border Wars, the example. I know Russia has some really big events. And honestly, I think that it's just that when you take a look at the population of countries in Europe and I could totally be wrong about this, but I would imagine, in my understanding, is that it's easier to go from one country to one country than it is here in the US. So I would say, and again, I could be wrong on this, one of you guys in Europe, call me out if I am. I feel like the population is much more dense in Europe than they are in the United States. Because I feel like we have a really big population of players in California on the West Coast. We have a lot of players in Texas, in kind of the southwest central part of the country. And then we have a lot of people on the East Coast. And because of that, when your country is 3,000 miles from side to side, it's kind of hard to get all of those players together. But when you're in Europe and you have, just millions of people and you can easily go from country to country, I feel like it's easier to have one of those larger games. Like the largest event that I know of in the United States is Evike's Bad Blood, which is hosted at EMR Event Park in New Milford, Pennsylvania. And that gets about 15,000, not 15,000, 1,500 people, excuse me. But it's really a bad game. And let me rephrase that. It is a $40 game. It has a very low barrier to entry. It allows full auto. It allows high caps. If you're looking for an immersive Milsim event or something bigger than just a 1,400 player open play, this is not the event for you. So it's fun in that aspect. I just always go with pretty low expectations. So yeah, I feel like that's why we don't get them here in the US. It's just because we have such a large land mass compared to the amount of people we have. There's 330 million Americans in this huge country versus all the people in Europe who are, for them, you can go from one country to another country in an hour. We versus here, I can drive for 4 hours and still be in my state. So I feel like that's why we don't have these huge games that other countries have. And just taking a look at some other questions. What is the best M4 under $200? G&G is going to be the way to go. I'm not going to give a specific model. get whichever one you think is prettiest. But the ARP9 is like $209, and it's a favorite gun of most players for a real reason. I find it interesting that I get asked this question a lot. Actually, I feel like every airsoft YouTuber gets asked, what is the best gun under $200? But what you're going to see is that if you spend a little bit more, like the difference between a $200 airsoft gun and a $250 airsoft gun is incredible. Like you can start to get Crytek's for 250 bucks. It's going to be their little PDW, but that gun's going to be way better for a little bit more. And I feel like there's a certain sweet spot in airsoft where when you spend like 175 up to 250. That jump of $75 is huge in terms of quality. And then after that, it's kind of diminishing returns. Like anything over 450 bucks, you're probably paying for the rail, for the Cerakote job, or for the trademark associated with the design. But yeah, there's a lot of great options. But if you want to spend a little bit more money into that $250 range, you start to get some of the cheaper VFCs. You get GMP. You know, there's a lot of options out there as well as some Crytek models as well, which I absolutely recommend. Just taking a look, I see some of you guys talking about those events in Europe that we discussed a second ago. I feel like it's not um Fire Lord, I've seen your question a couple times. The unspoken rules of what? But going back to that, I feel like yes, there are some areas that aren't as densely populated in Europe. But it's, like 11 hours for an airsoft game is pretty intense. The most I've ever driven for a game was 22 hours. I went from New York, where I live, to Mississippi, so all the way down to the southern edge of the United States, and it's definitely difficult. Leo is asking, "How has my MTW been treating me lately?" So this is a future video. I think this is going to be the first airsoft gun that I ever do a re-review on because I did the initial video of it when it was HPA with like a line and a tank and a regulator, and I was like, "This gun is amazing. It is the best gun you can buy." And then I had a lot of issues. The mainly with the Wraith CO2 stock. I just found that it was very inconsistent. It's something I was trying to use as a DMR. It just was not great, and it really just sat on the back burner for me. Since then, Wolverine has released a lot of new editions of the MTW. They have the Forged and the Billet series, which I think is the equivalency of what mine is. I could be wrong about that. I definitely got to do some research before the video. But now that they've come out with a lot of stuff for the MTW, like those new barrel series or those new body and barrel series, they also come with different rails. They have an upgraded hop up, and they also have the 33-gram stock, which is what I have recently bought in for my MTW. Um, I'm really happy with it so far. I think the only downside of it is that each one of those 33-gram cartridges of CO2 is $5. So it's definitely making me be picky of when I want to use it, but it has fixed every issue that I've had with the MTW, which is why I feel like it deserves a re-review as well as talking about the additional models that are out now. So I'm really enjoying it right now. Just I've bought in so many other new airsoft guns or have gotten them for review, like the VFC M4, my GHK AK. It's kind of hard to spread my time between all three of them, but more content on the MTW will be coming this summer, is what I will say. It could be earlier, but there's some other projects that I definitely want to tackle, guns that I haven't reviewed yet, or guns that will possibly be sent for review. Some of the sort of unspoken rules about airsoft. This kind of goes back to the video I did a couple of weeks ago about the worst types of airsoft cheating that I see, because I feel like some of these rules you should just know, but they don't really get talked about in like briefings or in the rules on the people's website. Number one, when you die, you don't talk anymore. Dead people don't talk in real life. You shouldn't be in airsoft. So when you get shot and you're pissed that you got sniped, you're not going to walk by one of your players and say, "Hey, he's in that red tower over there. Go get him." That's flat out cheating. Some of the other rules is like noise mentioned down below. Don't aim for the head if you can easily hit someone somewhere else. I would also say don't aim for other delicate parts of a man's body if you can hit somewhere else. Like if I get the drop on somebody, I'm just going to shoot them in the back of the plate carrier. That being said, I have had situations where I've shot people in like a huge like 3-day assault pack. They somehow don't hear that big twang of nylon, turn around and shoot me. It's a game. I walk back to respawn, but tell them that I shot them. Um, but yeah, absolutely. There are definitely some unwritten rules of airsoft, just stuff like that. It's really just like I feel like the golden rule of airsoft is don't be a jerk. Don't be that guy. Don't try to game the system. Just have a good time and realize like how absurd our hobby is because we're playing with toy guns. Like that has to be realized that this is grown men and teenagers as well running around with toy guns in the woods pretending to play army. It's just a game, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people miss about our hobby. But I'm just checking real quick for some questions that we've gotten on Instagram. Again, submit them down in the live chat. Submit them in the live chat, submit them on Instagram. Sorry, I was reading, and that's why I have it. And I should say, hey, Leland, happy birthday. I did see your question on Instagram. Hope you have a great birthday. Hope you get a cool airsoft gun. I did see another question on Instagram that I want to tackle, and that is, Lane, you've been a critic of YouTube's monetization policies. You said it yourself that your videos get demonetized. So why are you starting YouTube memberships? That seems kind of counterproductive. And at first glance, it absolutely does. But over the last couple of years, it's running a YouTube channel and kind of going through all this, there's some things that I have noticed. And that's going to be that it's not that YouTube necessarily dislikes my videos. Advertisers do not like my videos. And I get that. I get why a company like Pepsi or whoever, some multi-billion-dollar corporation, doesn't want their advertisements on a video of a guy playing with toy guns. I get it. So because of this, it's not that YouTube is saying we don't want your content on our platform, is that they're saying that, hey, maybe advertisers don't want to put their money behind you. And this happens through demonetization, the yellow dollar sign. You've probably seen it before. And this really does happen where videos will make, I would say, probably a 20th of what a regular video would make. So that's just one of the issues that I run into. So what I decided to do instead was to bring up YouTube's membership feature. And what that allows is for people who enjoy my content, who want to get more out of it, to make a monthly donation, and in return, they're able to get perks and things like that. So that's the main reason why I've switched. I want to put the power more so in the people who enjoy my content than the people who are, at some big company who have no idea what airsoft is, and they're just saying, "Oh, there's a gun in that. We're not putting our money behind it." So if you want to support that way, it's completely up to you. By not doing it, you're not losing anything. But anybody who does support through memberships gets emojis for the chats and the live streams. They can watch videos early, or they do get some member exclusive videos, which are more behind the scenes type stuff. But getting back to airsoft questions, I really like that question on Instagram that we have. Do I like Aries? I think that their guns can be okay. It really depends on which one and where you live in the world, because a lot of Aries guns are imported by Umarex Elite Force here in the United States, so they have a pretty good warranty behind them if anything happens to it. But I think that they have some proprietary parts, which I'm not a huge fan of. And again, because they sit in that like 100, upwards to 250, I think they face a lot of really stiff competition. But at the end of the day, if you like the gun, a lot of the things in it can be upgraded if you need to, such as the barrel. Most of them have upgradable hop ups. So it really just depends on exactly what you have and what you're looking to do with it. But like, one of the things that I hate in airsoft, or my biggest pet peeves, excuse me, is when people buy a gun and then they're like, "Hey, I just got this gun. I'm really excited. Maybe it's my first airsoft gun." And then people just crap on it. They're like, "Well, that gun's garbage. You should have bought a Crytek or you should have bought a VFC." And it's one of the things that I hate about airsoft because, like, yes, definitively the Crytek might be better. The VFC might be a better airsoft gun, but this is somebody's first airsoft gun. Let them have fun. Be like, "Hey, that gun's pretty good. There might be some things you want to look into the future, but I think you're going to be happy with it." Don't just like crap on somebody's first purchase in airsoft, especially if they already have spent the money. But if they're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying this, you know, should I?" Then it's different to say you might want to spend a little bit more money and get something better, but don't just crap on something that people have bought. Um, Jesha, if you're heading out, have a nice night. When do I think we're going to see airsoft versions of some of the next gen soldier weapons guns? I hope I made that acronym correctly. I think it's going to be a very, very long time, and it depends on if they actually get adopted. Um, so if the army decides that we need a new 6.8 medium machine gun, it gets adopted, whoever wins, they're going to be very protective over that design. And I feel like they're going to be more worried about how do we get this multi-million, multi-billion dollar contract in place with the army and the armed forces rather than, hey, let's license this out so that some people in China can make a toy gun out of it. I think it's going to be a very, very long time. And the only one that's going to be seen out of it is going to be the winners of the competition, in all honesty. But I think it'd be cool. but I just don't see us seeing those airsoft guns as replicas for a very long time because there's other guns out there that have been out for years that are very popular that we don't see any replicas of. You know, stuff that's like widely used around the world. Like this is going to be a bad example because they're just making it now, but like the MG4, it's going to be forever until we see one of those. Various machine guns that are in place with the army, like the M240L. While there are aftermarket parts to retrofit your M240, you know, nobody makes one out of the box as far as I know. So I feel like for especially for something as niche as like a light machine gun, I think it's going to be a very long time until we start to see some of those weapons because there's licensing, you know, things like that. Like think about I'm dating myself at this point, but like the ACR and the Masada, it took a very long time for us to see those, and it wasn't after like the testing; it was after they got featured in Modern Warfare 2. So I think it's just gonna be a while until we see any sort of guns like that. But I'm just taking a look at some questions that we have in the live stream right now. Again, if you have any questions, just feel free to drop them there or on Instagram. What do I think of the Cyma Platinum series? Again, they're going to be one of the better competitors in that $200 range. If you're looking for an AK, I seriously think that nobody makes a better AEG one than Cyma. They're just a really good airsoft gun. But I'm just going to take a look back real quick. I don't think that today's live stream is going to be as busy or as long, excuse me, as some of the other ones that we've done. So if you've got some questions, make sure to submit them. I can definitely feel my mouth hurting from that toothache. But going back to Alex's question about the Aries guns, taking a look at the exact model that you're talking about, yeah, I think that they're going to be good enough for most airsoft events. If you want to spend the extra money and get a $350, $400 airsoft gun down the road, go for it. I think you'll be happy with it, but you should be plenty happy with the gun that we have right now. The Ginger Viking asks, "How do I feel about the ESS crossbows for airsoft?" And I really like ESS products. I've been using the turbofans for 3 or 4 years now at this point. I think the crossbows are fantastic and they're much cheaper than Oakley M frames. So I would wholeheartedly recommend them just because they are pretty affordable for what they are. Right now, what I've been using for eye protection for kind of shorter games, I always use my ESS crossbows, but I also have a set of like 3M like safety goggles. I have like a Hilo kit so that they're full seal. I've been using those. They're like $9. I will use those at longer games, the Omega events. I use them at because I have to keep my goggles on for like 12 hours a day and those turbo fans just get kind of heavy. So I really like them. I am going to make the upgrade to crossbows this year, and Amped Airsoft carries them, so I'm probably going to pick them up from there. But yeah, I think that they're fantastic goggles, and kind of going alongside this, Josh asked what the best airsoft mask is. And I think it's either going to be the One Tigress style mask where it is mesh right here, and then it is kind of like a not fabric, but like a padded fabric on the sides. Some of them have ear coverings as well if your field requires that. I think that they're just fantastic because it contours to your face. So when you bring up the rifle, you don't have something hard like pressing against you and you get a really nice cheek weld on them. They're like 15 bucks on Amazon. I've talked about them before on the channel and they're fantastic. The only issue with them can be when you're running smaller eye pro, like the crossbows, kind of like the safety glass style, there's going to be a gap right here where it's just bare skin, which will get hit. Have I ever used the GBLS DAS GRD 15? I have shot it before at the Amped Airsoft Summer Expo in 2019. They had a booth and I got to shoot it. I think it's really, really cool. I can just never spend that much money on an airsoft gun, especially one that is as proprietary as that. I think they're a really cool niche gun. I think that's all they're ever going to be, in all honesty, though. Hey, $50 crossbows. I would definitely make sure that it's coming from a reputable vendor if you're buying it on eBay, because there's definitely a lot of knockoffs out there that even have the ESS logos on them. But yeah, I mean, if you can get a good deal on them, that's great. I think Amped Airsoft sells them as well, like I mentioned, and I have a coupon code to them, so it might actually be cheaper than that eBay link. I know that code is down in the description below. I used it the other day when I got the stuff for my MTW. My friend said that putting shaving cream on my goggles the night before makes them not fog. I'm actually going to be testing this hopefully tomorrow. Again, for everybody that's been coming late into the stream, the reason why we're even doing this on Saturday night, I've had a horrible toothache for like 2 days. That's why I keep drinking water. My face feels kind of tight and it hurts. So that's why this live stream was not Friday morning. But the back to the shaving cream question, I'm actually going to be testing that for maybe the next video. So the one that comes out on Friday, because I had a company reach out to me and say, hey, we make like a non fog like cream. Do you want to test it? And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. Whatever. So we're going to compare that to the shaving cream on a pair of goggles to see if it really works. I don't know if it's just like an old wives' tale or if it actually does. I've never tried it before. Grant, hello from Canada. Again, thank you to everybody who has been coming in. But just to take a look at some other questions, do I think that Tippmann will ever release other models with their blowback HPA system? Absolutely not, because Tippmann went bankrupt. Um, I didn't, excuse me. I never really liked Tippmann to begin with. I didn't like the airsoft guns. I thought that they were poorly made. I know to some people that's a very hot take and they completely disagree with me. That's totally fine. I was just never a big fan. And now that Tippmann is bankrupt and they only made one or two models in a hobby that they're never experts in, I don't think we're going to see more models and more on in all honesty. I think your best bet would be to wait until Wolverine, Polar Star, or Redline put more money into recoil systems like the Quake that Wolverine offers. I just don't think we're really going to see anything from Tippmann in the near future except for beginner guns. I think they're going to kind of take over that territory if they even stay in airsoft. I think they're going to take over the territory that Valken kind of has, as like geared towards lower end players. And just taking a look at some more questions. Another question about the MTW. I have already talked about it today. I'm using the stock barrel and hop up right now because I've been doing all my testing with that. I think I'm going to get the Phoenix hop up and then a nice barrel. Right now, a lot of my money has been to really one, I've been saving up to fix this tooth, but at the same time, going towards the GHK AK because mags are so expensive. But we'll see what happens. I know that when I do more with the MTW, I'm probably going to put the barrel that I have in my old VFC Mark 18. I think that's a who makes the blue hop up units that were popped for forever. It starts with a P. Prowin. It was a Prowin hop up unit, and I think a Prometheus barrel. So we'll try that in there. Um, Yes, I believe Tippmann went bankrupt. I know Airsoftology did a video on it while ago, but bankruptcy isn't something that goes away overnight. Not necessarily Tippmann, but the company that owns them, GI Sports. And just taking a look at some other questions that we have. Yes, neoprene will fog very quickly if you use that as your face mask material. Part of the reason why I want to do this video on fogging is because I've owned my ESS goggles forever and they've been fantastic. What happened for me was that like I never worried about fogging. It has the built-in fan. However, once I started to play airsoft again during COVID, where it requires you to wear like some sort of face covering besides your mesh, I started to fog because, I would put on like a balaclava or even like a disposable face mask and I would fog because all of that kind of moisture from my breath would just immediately go up. Um, so for me, I was like, huh, like this hasn't been an issue for me, but I know that it's an issue for a lot of people. Um, so yeah, that's why we're gonna do that defog video. Hopefully, I will film it tomorrow, depending on how I feel, to have it up for Friday. Um, Scott's asking if recoil systems are underdeveloped by Polar Star or Wolverine. Wolverine has their Quake CO2 stock, or not CO2 stock, it's a Quake recoil stock. I'm thinking of the Wraith. So it already exists. I don't think Polar Star has any plans for it, but they might have been cooking something up during COVID. Who knows? Um, Ginger Viking, yeah, eventually I will go to Ground Zero Airsoft. Really, right now, the only events that I am planning on going to, besides just like open plays, is the AMS game at Zulu 24 at the end of May. But other than that, I'm kind of leaving it wide open. I don't know what the summer's going to look like, but I'm definitely ready to get outside again for sure. So GZA has been on my radar. I really want to go to one of their games. It's just been a timing thing. This is the first summer since I started this YouTube channel 6 years ago, where I actually have Saturdays off so I can go to more games and more games that require me to drive like 6 hours, like a GZA would. So I'm definitely going to try to play as much as possible this year. I have another question from Grant. Um, Sorry, live chat keeps bopping around. And I've seen more stores that are carrying the Raven brand. I've never heard of them. Are they an airsoft gun manufacturer or do they make tactical gear? If you give me a little bit more details, it might jog my memory. I know that there's a Canadian brand that doesn't have a huge amount of influence in the United States so far, which is Maple Airsoft Supply. I think the only people that carry them in the US is Amped Airsoft. They're fantastic airsoft guns. I got to handle one when I filmed videos at Amped like 2 years ago at this point, and I want one. Just I already have so many M4s, especially AEG M4s, that I just don't see the need for it. I think eventually I'm going to do a big purge of like all the guns I have because especially that I haven't been playing as much and like I can only bring so many guns with me. I've always had the question of like how many do I need? So right now the answer is 4 AEGs and HPA guns. I'm currently at like 7. So eventually I will start to kind of thin the collection. We'll probably do another collection video before then though. But Sam, thank you for the suggestion. I will definitely take a screenshot of that and remember. Yeah, it just kind of like this pain kind of just came on like yesterday. Like I have to get a root canal on this, but I don't have health insurance, so just kind of waiting it out. I will definitely get that taken care of as soon as I can, though. And just taking another question. Yes, if you were to have something like a dust mask or something with a better seal, it's going to make sure that you have less fogging on your goggles. But I feel like for me, I kind of like having that to go out. Plus, as well, you're not going to be able to wear a dust mask like an N95 underneath something that's actually going to protect your teeth. Because I'm pretty sure a BB would go right through that. Um, Vietnam kit is interesting. I think that that is a really underserved area in the United States. There's not a lot of Vietnam games here. But it's also, from what I understand, you can get into it for fairly cheap. Like I think the hard part's going to be finding an old school M16 from a really good brand. But yeah, I think that impressions are really cool. It's something that I don't talk about a lot on the channel because I've noticed that a lot of people that watch my channel don't necessarily enjoy it. Um, and I guess what I mean by that is that there's impression kits that I'm working on. Like right now, I'm working on a FSB kit, and a lot of that stuff, because it's not American manufacturers, it's not stuff that you can just like go out and buy on a website, doesn't do as very well as videos. Like one of the coolest things I've gotten in a very long time is I just got a FSB issued Mark II chest rig. And I'm super excited about it. I got it the other day and I was all giddy when it came in the mail. But I just don't think it would make a very good video. And I actually did talk about it like 3 years ago and the video flopped. So I just don't feel like my audience is great for it. I love it. I'd love to do more loadout videos in general, more so of like an overview than like a super detailed video that takes like 45 minutes. But it's really just like it's difficult to do. But this year things should be better because COVID's lifted. I can go out and see my friends. I have Saturdays free for the first time in half a decade. Um, just literally anything asked what my opinions are on Lancer Tactical. And I'm gonna take a drink of water before we get into this. I feel like Lancer Tactical gets a ton of hate just for being Lancer Tactical. Some of it is absolutely deserved. Some of it I don't think is deserved at all. So, little bit of backstory. I think like one of the worst things that Lancer Tactical has ever done is they got busted selling eye protection that was not fully ANZ safe, which is the if you're unfamiliar, the eye safe level rating is the word I'm looking for that we go off of here in the US to make sure that a BB isn't going to go through and kill you or just really really mess up your eye. That's pretty bad. I will never defend that, but I think that as a beginner brand, I don't think that they're the worst thing out there. I don't think that they're as bad as many people say. I mean, obviously, I feel like I get a lot of comments from people, and understandably so, saying well, Lancer Tactical is a piece of garbage. They should just buy a Crytek instead. But I think what a lot of people don't understand is that some people only have the budget to spend $200 to get into airsoft. Like they're getting the gun, they're getting the eye protection, the face mask, the BBs, admission. They've got $200. If you have more, I will always say buy a Crytek, buy a VFC Avalon. But I think that as a beginner brand, they're better than the other options in their price point. Like I would put a Lancer tactical gun, and I only look to the side because I have one right over there out of view. I would put those above Valken and above some other brands in that price point. Again, you could go out and buy better. There are better guns out there. Don't get me wrong. And in the terms of their other products that they offer, like I have a red dot of theirs on my Keg M4. It's good enough for what it is. It's definitely an airsoft red dot, but as somebody who's used to shooting, optics that are made for real firearms, I see the difference. But to an airsoft player who's got $30 to spend on an optic, $50 maybe, they're good enough. And I think that's kind of the range that they fall in. Their tactical gear is okay, kind of in the same range that I see that Colton asked about NC Star. I mean, it's not the best thing out there, but for airsoft purposes, it'll do you plenty fine. I have a Lancer tactical plate carrier that is like completely slick. I don't put any pouches on it, but I just run it underneath a my Spirit of Systems chest rig, just because I want to have that little bit extra protection right here if I'm playing CQB, and it just looks cool, which is what really matters in airsoft. And the other thing is that, like, for their price point, again, I think that Lantern Tactical is pretty good and better than the other options out there. Like, a couple of years ago, I did a lot more work with Lantern Tactical than I do now. I worked with somebody directly from their company, and they said, "Hey, we want to send you a gun. Can you do a gameplay video on it and do a review?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, absolutely." And when I'd go out and play with these guns, I didn't feel like I was at a super disadvantage. Obviously, there are some things that I noticed. The trigger wasn't as snappy. It could have been a little bit better grouping past 150 feet, but the gun was also $200 less than my Crytek. So I don't think that they're the worst thing in the world. And I know that a lot of people just immediately hear Lancer Tactical and they're like, oh, they suck and you suck too. You're a shill. But I don't think that they're the worst thing out there. And going back to what we talked about like half an hour ago, there's a lot of people who will like just completely crap on people for the airsoft gun that they do own, and I hate that about airsoft. Like, if they already own it, be like, "Hey, man, you might wanna look into this in the future, but I hope you have fun playing airsoft." Too many people are just about to be like, "Oh, well, you didn't buy the gun that I like? Well, you're a scrub and you suck." Um, Castle I do like saying, "Oh, just buy the MTW as a beginner. It's only what, a $700 airsoft gun now?" Like, that's the other thing that I wanna do a re-review on, is that the gun has gotten more expensive since I bought it, because when I bought it, it was like 550, and I was like, "Oh, totally worth it." And I think that we're gonna talk about Lancer for another minute, because Sam brought something up that they had a bad rep with the Gen 1s, but the Gen 2s are better. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny because, like, a company that I hate, that people like burn, like it's the opposite where I hate a company and people burn me to the stake about it, is E&L. I hate E&L guns. I think that they're just horrible. I've never had a good time with them. None of my friends have been good, and LCTs have been so much better for me and for my friends, or even just Sima. Ginger Viking, reach out to me on Instagram at the BB Warrior. I'd definitely love to talk to you about that. Hope that you have a good night if you're hopping off. But yeah, I feel like ENL is one of those companies that I hate. I don't think that they're very good airsoft guns, and people are like, oh well, like you're dumb, you're bad, unsubscribe, canceled, whatever it may be. But yeah, no, I think that the Lantern Tacticals just have a really bad rap for some of their older guns, but honestly, they're good enough for their price point. But just to get off of that real quick, Colton wants to know what my opinions on shotguns are, and I think that it really depends on exactly which type you're talking about. So I guess where I'm getting at with that is that we have our old school cheapo tri-shot shotguns. They're okay. I think that they're more fun as like a screwing around, or like you just want to have a very casual round of CQB. And then we have things like the AEG ones from Tokyo Marui. Again, I think that they're just kind of a meme in reality. And then you have gas shotguns, which I think are really cool but super impractical for compared to people running around with DSGs and HPA. I think it's a fun challenge if that's what you're into in airsoft, which is particularly what I am enjoying lately. That's why I'm switching over to a lot of gas blowback airsoft guns. But yeah, no, I just think that like they're kind of, I don't see them serving a purpose that other guns don't do better. Like, I would rather have an HPA tapped high kappa, but at the same time, if you enjoy the challenge of it, if you think they're just cool, go for it. Like I can make my recommendations as a reviewer, but at the end of the day, it's whatever you find to be the most fun. Um, and just taking a quick look at some more questions that we have. What ammo do I typically play with? The cheapest that I will use is a 3.2, or the lightest I'll use, excuse me, is a 3.2 gram BB. I find that 2.5s just go all over the place. 2.0s are for really just not, they're for beginner guns. And even then, lower guns can take advantage of having a .25 or a .28. I think that you just have a much more solid trajectory and can take advantage of a better airsoft gun with heavier BBs. Yes, they cost more, but I don't shoot a lot to begin with. I almost never use full auto. And like now that I have my GHK AK, I'm probably gonna run fours in that in all honesty, because the gun can hop it. So I would definitely say take advantage of the best BB that your gun can reliably hop. I would definitely start with 3.2s, and 3.2s are pretty widely available now than they were 5 years ago. Elite Force is the ones that I personally like. I love their BBs. HPA brand also makes pretty good ones, and I think G&G makes 3.2s as well for them to check it out. And just taking a look at them. And Matt asks, with Task Force Keg now coming out, do you have any tips for getting impression accurate gear? I have to check a surplus store near me, but I'm having trouble finding an ACH helmet for under 300 bucks. So if you're unfamiliar, Task Force Keg is a impression kit. It is based off of 2012 to 2014 US infantry kit. My advice for getting impression accurate gear is it's a lot of who you know. Like for me, like for US Army gear, especially stuff from 7 8 years ago now, is a little bit easier to find because you can find it on surplus sites, surplus websites. But a lot of it's going to be if you're doing, especially impressions that are not American or the units that are in your own country, I should say. It can be difficult, and it's really going to depend on who you know. So for American kit, eBay, Arms List, Facebook groups, those are really going to be your best way to do it. Finding other people who are doing the same kit that you do, you're either going to purchase the gear that they don't need or they're going to recommend someone to you. So if there's like an impression group on Facebook, that would be the way to go. Like for me right now, because I'm working on a Russian FSB kit, it's kind of hard for me to find things because one, it's on the other side of the planet, and two, a lot of people who are selling this stuff who live in Russia don't speak English very well. So for me, it's really been knowing people who live in America who reliably get this stuff in, and that's how it's been for me. Russian kit specifically, I'm thinking of like Outpost Armories comes to mind. I think they're shutting down. I could be wrong about that, but it really just like there's buy sell trade groups on Facebook or joining the Milsim West impression community for whatever group you're looking to do. That's my biggest advice. And it's also going to depend on your body makeup as a person. Like if you're really tall or you're just like a big dude, it's going to be really difficult for you to find gear versus somebody who's a little bit more normally built. Um, so it depends on exactly what kit you're doing, but find other people who are interested in it, and you'll definitely find some great deals. Taking a look at it real quick. What is a good first Milsim event in the Midwest and East Coast? Desert Fox events is what I would look at. There's also a Third Coast and American Milsim. All three of them are more casual Milsim events where, like, I'm tired, so I'm going to go back to our fob and sit down for 30 minutes is totally okay and highly recommended at those events. It's nice, like at a Desert Fox game at EMR Event Park that I went to in Pennsylvania. It was like 95 degrees out, and I'm wearing at Desert Fox games, it's green versus tan, but tan team also uses blue accents and green team uses red accents. So I wore jeans and like an old school DCU like top. I was dying, even though I was wearing a chest rig. So yeah, definitely with those events, it gives you time to sit down and have food, go back to your car if you absolutely need to. But like, I wouldn't recommend Milsim West being your first Milsim unless you're like prior military or like super, super outdoorsy, because they can be a generally difficult event to finish for people who are not prepared correctly. Sam, I kind of on a similar topic of not being prepared. What do I think about of hydration packs for airsoft for open play or larger games? I have been moving away from them, not to say that I don't like them, but the events that I play at, I find that I don't need them based on my own body. So I am comfortable playing for about 30 minutes at a time without drinking water. And even then, so I can go beyond that. Like I know that my body is capable of that. So for most games that I go to, I'm just carrying, a bottle of water in my cargo pocket. Like something that I really like about the Cry G3 pants is they have some elastic in that pocket so I can have it stay secured there so it's not flopping around. The larger game you go to, you're obviously going to want to carry more water. But like even for Milsim West, I'm trying to figure out what to do so I don't have to carry an assault pack because in Milsim West you have to carry everything in on your back, and having a ruck and an assault pack is going to be a real pain in the butt. So my thought has been, well, on the Mark II chest rig, which I wish that it was in this room so I could show it to you guys. It has these huge general purpose pouches on the side, which are the right size to fit a 32-ounce now clean bottle. Um, so, ooh, and I just saw something that we're just going to go ahead and remove from chat. But anyways, yeah, so I feel like it's really should you carry a hydration bladder? It depends on what you are looking for. It depends on what your body is capable of, and it depends on the gear that you are using. So if you want to carry a hydro bladder, I think that they're really easy to use, and it's easier to easier to just take care of that by having the little strap come over you than, having to, like, dig out a water bottle. I think that it's just really easier to do. Um, but yeah, I mean, really, it depends on, again, what gear you're using, how you want it to be set up. I love hydro carriers. I just wear chest rigs a lot, so I don't have a way to carry it on there. But, anyways, if you have any more questions, I think we're going to end in the next 10 minutes or so. My throat is absolutely killing me. Let's see if we got any more questions on Instagram. If you want to ask them, put them in the chat, put them wherever it may be. Um, Also, yes, Ginger Viking brings up a great point. Carry more than you think you actually need because there's probably going to be somebody at the event. Just statistically, there's going to be somebody who isn't prepared and needs water. Like I was staffing an event and I came up to a player and he was like struggling, like you could tell. And he's like, "Yeah, I stopped sweating like 20 minutes ago." And I was like, "Well, wait, what? No, that's not healthy." And I'm like, "Take this water." And he's like, "Nah, dude, I'm fine. I'm fine." I'm like, "You drink this water right now, young man." And then he felt much better and kind of relaxed for a little bit. And then he had a great time for the rest of the event and did not drop out from getting heat exhaustion. So, anyways, yeah, definitely carry more than you need because somebody else is probably going to need it. Just taking a look at some other questions that we have. Matt, I'm glad to see that you're having success in the actual Task Force Keg group. One of the great things about that group is run by people that I know and respect and love. Ginger Viking, thank you so much for the support, man. I really appreciate it. And then we have another question, which will probably be one of the last couple ones we asked today from Castle Lab Airsoft, which is, what's your dream gun that isn't made for airsoft yet? And I should also mention, because I've mentioned his questions a couple of times in this video, go check out his channel. He's got some great content. The dream gun that hasn't been made yet for airsoft is the SIG MPX. I know that we have the MCX, the 5.56 carbine version. I want the 9mm SMG. Probably just because I've used it so many times in Battlefield 4. There's a lot of guns that look very similar to it, but I want the real thing so bad. And like I remember like last year, like right when COVID was starting, like man, I want MPX so bad, but I know that nobody's gonna make it. So I bought a VFC MP5, and I love the gun, but I don't use it. And like I almost sold it the other day. Like I was like, man, I don't use this gun. And like the VFC MP5, my goal for it was like I want this small, compact, lightweight gun, and the gun weighs just as much as my Mark 18. Like it's just a brick. So it's like, oh, it doesn't really fulfill that role. It's 3 inches shorter than my Mark 18. So it's like, man, I should just buy the MP5K from Sima that Elite Force is distributing. But who knows? I like the VFC gearbox. I think it's great, but I don't know. It's just like one of those guns that I feel like is redundant for what I have, and I don't see a use for it, and especially because I gotta go out and buy brand new mags. It's why I haven't used it and why it hasn't gotten time on the channel, except for like the first couple weeks I got it. I think I mentioned it in some live streams, but it's been over a year since it's seen the light of day here on the YouTube channel. I did put it as B-roll in the Bravo Pack 15 video though, so I guess it's getting some usage. But on that note, my jaw is killing me now. So we're going to end it here. Thank you to everybody who watched today's live stream. I really appreciate it. Patrick, I live in New York. Having anything that is NFA is a joke. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. I know that this was a weird time. Typically, I don't want to have live streams right now, especially when another Airsoft content creator is doing live streams. But yeah, it was just really weird with this toothache, which is starting to get to me, so I'm gonna stop talking. But, yeah, make sure to turn on notifications so you get notified when we have new content like this. If you enjoy the work that I do here on the channel, consider becoming a member. You get custom emojis, you can watch videos early, and get behind the scene videos. If you're not able to become a member, I completely understand. Just thank you for enjoying my content. This has been Wayne from the BB Warrior, and I will see you all next time. See you next week, guys.